Adam West wore his Batman costume for the last time in 1967 on a secret mission. For over 50 years, something he filmed in London was lost. No American aficionado had ever seen it. Not even the most ardent Batman collectors knew it existed. The movie was buried deep in British archives and was forgotten by all. Then, in 2018, it was found by someone searching for lost TV history. What Adam West stated in the missing scene astounded the audience. Even the most famous superheroes can hide evil secrets, as the revelation showed. In 1964, Ed Graham Productions purchased the rights to make a Batman television series. Like The Adventures of Superman, which CBS had aired for children in the 1950s, it was supposed to be a straightforward Saturday morning adventure. The first live-action Batman on television was to be played by Mike Henry, an NFL linebacker who eventually changed into Tarzan. Negotiations continued for weeks, but by 1965 CBS was almost done with the contract. The network never picked up the show. Batman's standing in popular culture would have suffered for years to come if it had been permitted to become a bland children's program. Just before filming was set to begin, the whole concept collapsed, and Henry hastily left the project to play Tarzan. That failure led to the creation of the primetime Batman that became a worldwide sensation, but it also prevented the world from ever seeing a Saturday morning Batman. That same year, something unexpected happened at Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion in Chicago. Hefner decided to screen the full 15-episode 1943 Batman serial. Celebrities and socialites crowded the event. Even while it first seemed to be just a gathering honoring nostalgia, it caused a social backlash that nobody had predicted. Throughout the action, the audience cheered, jeered the antagonist, yelled at the screen, and dressed up. The New York Times and other media outlets reported on the lively atmosphere during the showing. Suddenly, Hollywood executives saw Batman in a different light. The long-lost serial has gained popularity again. Hefner's gathering showed that people were willing to appreciate Batman's ostentatious style. If the occurrence hadn't occurred, the character might still be stuck in dusty film reels. Columbia Pictures capitalized on the frenzy by recutting the 1943 serial into a single, 4.5-hour film in 1965 called An Evening with Batman and Robin. It quickly spread to college towns and art house theaters after its Chicago premiere at the Playboy Theater. Concession sales hit all-time highs and theaters sold out of midnight showings as crowds poured in. Some cinemas even split the screenings over 2 days, showing 7 chapters on Saturday and 8 on Sunday. According to reports, fans were forming lines around the block in costume. The achievement surprised executives at ABC and Columbia. It was clear from the research that Batman could draw large audiences. Those ticket sales and headlines convinced the network that a live-action Batman series might be a big hit. Around this period, Yale Udoff, a young ABC executive, gained notoriety. Udoff had been a fan of Batman since he was a kid, and he was even more certain that the character ought to be on television after seeing the reaction of the Chicago crowd. At every meeting, he pushed the idea that, "we ought to do Batman," to his bosses. At first, they dismissed him with laughter, but Udoff persisted. He came up with a whole idea for a stylish TV series that blended elements of James Bond and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He gained notoriety for his tenacity. Some ABC execs even said that they started secretly reading Batman comics while traveling across the country, hiding them in business magazines. In the end, Udoff's persistence was essential in convincing ABC to take the chance. When William Dozier was hired as producer in 1966, he made an unexpected admission: he had never read a comic book. Upon finally obtaining some Batman issues for his research, he was so shocked by them that he came to the conclusion that the information was wholly untrustworthy. He thought comedy was the only practical choice because of stories of Batman surfing against the Joker and devices like shark-repellent bat spray. Rather than recreate the comics exactly, he chose to make the show a campy spoof. It was a bold choice at a time when satire was already widely accepted in American culture, from Andy Warhol's artwork to Lichtenstein's works with a comic book theme. The result was not what was shown on television. Phrases like POW, brightly colored costumes, and exaggerated villains, and BAM, Flashing across the screen established the style. Dozier was successful with his plan. When Batman first came out in January 1966, it became an instant hit. Dozier's approach was not universally accepted. The series began with a full-length Batman feature, initially commissioned by famed espionage writer Eric Ambler. But as soon as he learned that Dozier planned to turn the character into a pop art comedy, he quit the project. Parody did not appeal to Ambler, who was famed for his grim thrillers. How unusual Dozier's idea was shown by his sudden departure. In Hollywood, it was rare for a writer to decline a big project just because he disagreed with the direction. Casting was another crucial point. In 1965, 2 full-screen tests were recorded. One starred Adam West and Burt Ward, the other featured Peter DeYoung as Robin and Lyle Waggoner as Batman. Because Waggoner was already well-known in Hollywood and had the look that corporate executives desired, he was the safer choice. West, meanwhile, was essentially unknown. When the test tape was compared side by side, West and Ward captured the quirky, campy mood that Dozier wanted. The studio decided to take a gamble and turn down the more well-known star. West and Ward brought Batman and Robin to life in a way that no one else could, even if Waggoner went on to succeed with other television shows like Wonder Woman and The Carol Burnett Show. Adam West's path to the role seems especially unlikely. The producers had been alerted by a Nestle Quick advertising. His deadpan delivery in the ad demonstrated his ability to say absurd things while maintaining a straight face. Dozier immediately recognized that the show needed this tone. West beat out better renowned performers to sign his contract on September 21, 1965, because he could make Batman look both serious and funny at the same time. His unique blend made his performance remarkable. Burt Ward was selected to play Robin in 1966. The character was 20 years old at the time, despite the fact that he was written as a high school student. Ward's youthful appearance led audiences to assume he was closer to 15 or 16. During the first 5 days of production, he was hospitalized 4 times for performing his own stunts behind the scenes. The injuries are a testament to the amount of work he put into the role. Fans debated his true age for years, but his agility and vitality made him a perfect fit for the part. The 2 main roles were supported by seasoned stage performers, who gave the performance weight. Alan Napier, who was born in 1903 and is related to former British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, performed the part of Alfred. After training at London's Royal Academy of Dramatic Art and performing since the 1920s, Napier joined Batman in 1966 at the age of 63. Neil Hamilton, who portrayed Commissioner Gordon, had a long history in silent films and theater productions. Their locations provided a sense of reality to the program that contrasted with the lively chaos all around them. Seduction of the Innocent was written by psychiatrist Frederick Wortham in 1954. In it, he made a shocking statement that quickly went viral across the United States. Wortham claims that Batman's stories are mentally queer. He called attention to the fact that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson lived together, were sometimes seen hanging out together, and had no women residing there. He also cited cases in which children said they wanted to live with Bruce Wayne. In fact, Wortham went so far as to call the comic a fantasy in which 2 homosexuals lived together. During the height of the Lavender Scare in the 1950s, his belief struck a chord with the general fears of the time. Following the publication of the book, the charge remained and plagued Batman for years. Even when the Batman TV series became a global success in the 1960s, producers and actors were still concerned that any detail may resurrect the controversy. Every aspect of Batman, including the language, costumes, and storylines, was closely researched for hidden social meaning, making it one of the most closely studied children's shows of its time. The friction was evident in 1967 when an article titled "The Whisper Campaign Against Batman and Robin" was published in the magazine TV Radio album. Their words were strong despite their brief 2-page length and the spread's remaining space being devoted to images of the heroes dressed up. For the first time, a mainstream journal reported on the speculation surrounding the relationship between Batman and Robin, as well as the actors Adam West and Burt Ward. The paper denied the charges but made sly comparisons. They must have heard the murmurs, like Liberace a few years ago, but they are probably laughing all the way to the bank, one term stated. It was a reference to the well-known pianist Liberace, who in the 1950s had sued newspapers for suggesting he was gay. He famously joked that he cried all the way to the bank after obtaining $8,000 in damages, which at the time was almost $22,000. By mentioning him, the magazine fueled the gossip while feigning indifference. It demonstrated how intensely the rumors had spread, becoming a topic of discussion for discussions about television and sexuality at the time. The connections to Liberace were not incidental, rather, they demonstrated how authors were able to bring up the topic without accusing anyone directly by using coded language and clever references. Knowing that readers would make the connection, the TV radio album article capitalized on this strategy. According to the article, the Batman stars were aware of the joke, taking pleasure in their notoriety and disregarding the rumors, just like Liberace. However, the show's producers took the rumors seriously. They were concerned that advertisers and the family audience could be turned off by the notion of a homosexual milieu surrounding the series. ABC officials immediately stepped in and reworked some scenes in the show to make Batman's attraction to women more obvious, such as when Batman told Robin that his fascination with attractive supervillains was a result of the first oncoming thrusts of manhood. This was a harsh but deliberate statement, and from that point on, the scripts often featured Batman showing interest in women, even though it seemed out of place for the series' campy tone. The purposeful action was to convince sponsors and viewers that the Caped Crusader was safe and heterosexual. However, the scripts weren't the end of the campaign. The studio began a behind-the-scenes publicity campaign to make Adam West and Burt Ward unquestionably manly. Whether they practiced karate, talked about their marriages, or flaunted their kids in magazines and press kits, their hobbies and exercise routines were even portrayed as proof of their manliness. It was almost desperate, but the effort demonstrated the pressure the performers and the network were under. In the 1960s, a single rumor could threaten not just the reputation of a star but the popularity of an entire series. At the same time, the show itself began to suffer from problems unrelated to rumors. Batman exploded onto television screens in January 1966 and became an instant sensation, attracting 14 million homes at its peak in February, an astounding 42% of the audience. By March 1966, the Wednesday night shows had fallen so far that they hardly made it into the weekly top 20. The idea was already starting to feel stale, and ABC memos at the time admitted that the novelty was wearing off. The phrase, Batman fatigue, began to spread, and by the summer of 1966, the decline had become a collapse. Batman had been one of the most popular shows in the country only a few months earlier, but an August 11 Associated Press story claimed that Batman was no longer listed among the highest-rated shows because the viewers had fallen sharply, but the merchandise was still selling well. While networks had expected a slight decline over the summer, this was far more severe than usual. The fad that had influenced slang and fashion was already fading, and the excitement was supposed to be rekindled with the 1966 release of the Batman movie. The studio had spent a lot of money on promotion and expected a huge hit, but instead the film made only $1.7 million at the box office, 122% better than a typical film in 20 major cities, but studio analysts had predicted a hit to be closer to 200%. Merchandise sales were still strong, but the movie itself did not make a profit, and both ABC and 20th Century Fox were shocked by the lack of success, as they had expected the film to extend the franchise's life. It didn't help to introduce new antagonists like Catwoman and the Archer, and the ratings for the second season, which premiered in September 1966, were appalling. Batman dropped from its top 5 ranking earlier that year to an average of 34th place across all television series, with some episodes even dropping into the 40s in the rankings. The cast publicly voiced their fear that the show would soon be cancelled, and the numbers showed that the magic had faded. The most surprising piece of allegedly banned Batman content from 1966 wasn't even from an American television program. Adam West filmed a traffic safety message for British children in May 1967 while dressed as Batman in London. No one had seen this footage in more than 50 years. Even the most dedicated Batman fans in America were unaware of its existence. The movie was finally rediscovered in 2018 when the archive organization Kaleidoscope came upon it while attempting to retrieve the top 100 missing TV clips from the UK. Most people thought it was lost forever because it had never been aired outside of Britain before. It felt like unearthing a secret gem from British cultural history and superhero culture when it was eventually released to the public in 2018. In the video, Batman utilizes his notoriety to instruct kids in the curb drill, which is Britain's take on traffic safety regulations. Adam West stands on a peaceful street and tells kids about the deadly risk they face every day when crossing the street. The steps are as follows: halt at the curb, look right, glance left, look right again, and only cross when it's safe. He performs them with cool authority. In a way that no other actor has ever done, he remains completely in character as Batman, fusing the British Safety Council with the American superhero image. The first public screening took place at Birmingham City University on April 14, 2018, marking the beginning of Kaleidoscope's nationwide search for 100 forgotten television treasures, including Doctor Who and Avengers episodes. The event was attended by professionals and die-hard fans, and many were surprised to learn that Batman had previously acted in a long-forgotten road safety movie. The rediscovery showed how much important media is still hidden in private collections and archives, just waiting to be discovered. Another aspect of Batman history that many found puzzling was the singer Leslie Gore, who played Catwoman's sidekick Pussycat in the two-part episode Scat. The show Darn Catwoman debuted on January 25, 1967. She sang two songs during the story, California Nights and Maybe Now. California Nights was kept in the story, but Maybe Now was removed from American reruns for reasons that have never been revealed. The song, which was published as the B-side of her single Treat Me Like a Lady, was written with her brother, Michael Gore. The performance was edited out in MeTV airings and American cable reruns, although it was still included in some prints and international broadcasts. The missing number became one of the most bizarre mysteries of the show since many viewers were unaware of its existence. Additionally, there was a contentious incident involving Commissioner Gordon. In one iteration of the series, Batman leads him inside the Batcave, where Alfred renders him comatose with bat sleep spray, causing him to forget the hero's hidden identities. Producers were concerned about depicting a police commissioner getting drugged, even in a campy setting, therefore several syndications cut this sequence or eliminated the gassing completely. Not every strange story from the Batman era began on television. After a famous party went out of control in the late 1960s, Adam West was banned from Aspen, Colorado, for 15 years. Gordon's involvement in the Batcave was entirely reduced in other versions. With millions of children watching, the changes showed how even lighthearted entertainment must be mindful of its limitations. Yes, women. Police, yes. He was considered a Hollywood hellraiser at the time. Officials at Aspen sent West a letter confirming his homecoming exactly 15 years later, even though no criminal charges were ever filed. The episode cemented his reputation as more than just a TV superhero, with West and Burt Ward becoming as well-known off-camera for their nightlife as they were for taking on Gotham's villains. Later, Ward admitted that they often ran with excited fans still dressed as their characters, and he shared stories in his autobiography that shocked viewers and made the show's creators look foolish. Although West insisted that Ward exaggerated many of the accusations circulating about the stars, these stories contributed to them. However, the rumors strained their professional relationship and worried network management, who were worried that the show's family-friendly image might be damaged. Their co-stars also added to the show's mystique. Cesar Romero, who plays the Joker, is famous for not shaving his beard. Instead, the makeup crew painted it thickly white for all 120 episodes and the 1966 film, and close-ups still show the faint shape, which makes Romero's Joker more memorable. One of the most talked-about oddities in the entire Batman franchise started as a personal vanity. The cast often led wild lives behind the scenes, just like their fictional characters. West and Ward both say their success led to countless parties with alcohol, late nights, and constant attention. Actors were worn out during filming, and makeup artists had to work extra hard to keep them looking fresh because these parties sometimes lasted until morning. In addition to its colorful action and campy humor, the Batman of the 1960s is still remembered for the countless untold stories that surrounded it. In 1966, famed science fiction writer Harlan Ellison was asked to submit a pitch for a Batman TV episode, and despite being one of Batman's most famous enemies, he chose to introduce the tragic villain Two-Face, who had never been on the series. Ellison called his story The Two-Way Crimes of Two-Face. It was a good fit for the campy, light-hearted tone of the show, but it also had a darker edge that set it apart. At one point, actor Clint Eastwood was also considered for the role, which would have given the series a lot more star power. But Ellison's proposal came on the same day that a senior ABC executive was leaving the company, and the script was rejected due to the timing and the underlying politics, and for nearly 50 years the idea sat in Ellison's files until DC finally turned it into a comic book called Batman 66, The Lost Episode in 2014. The program also made hefty investments in building the Batboat for the 1966 film and TV series, with Glastron building the one-of-a-kind vessel packed with technology meant to impress onlookers. While it made its first appearance in the film, the cost of shooting on water was shocking, as each scene required extra crew, specialized equipment, and safety measures, often increasing the cost of each shoot by hundreds of dollars. The Batboat was used sparingly by producers because of its high cost, and it was soon stored away, becoming almost legendary to viewers, a reminder that the show had to sacrifice some of its most creative ideas because of budgetary constraints. In 1968, Batman's ratings fell precipitously by the third season, and the show was abruptly cancelled by ABC, but NBC expressed interest in giving it a fourth season just as all hope was lost. Then, a shocking mistake was found. The sets, including Commissioner Gordon's office, Wayne Manor, and the Batcave, had already been destroyed by the producers, and it was estimated that rebuilding them would cost several $100,000, or more than $2 million in today's currency. NBC abandoned the plan after learning of this, and an attempt to save the series ended in what is now considered one of the most expensive production errors in television history. According to network notes from 1967 and 1968, the conclusion of Batman also marked the end of any opportunity to create a larger superhero universe. Other suggestions included a show for Robin and possibly one that would feature other DC heroes, a kind of early Justice League. With concept drawings and network discussions, some of these proposals made it to the pitch stage, but all of the spin-offs were cancelled after Batman fell in the third season and the sets were demolished, and some were dropped just days before casting was set to begin.